What's up, everybody? Welcome back, and I hope you had a great holiday and a great Thanksgiving with your family if you celebrate it. Today's video, we're going to get right back into the action, talking about slug rounds and explosive slugs for the 680. I'm going to cover the 680 again. I know you guys are probably tired of this shotgun, but it's just such a great gun, and it's so much fun to me. So I'm going to talk about slugs and explosive slugs and show you guys the numbers and all the objective stuff, talk about my overall thoughts, and of course, give you guys an awesome class you have to try. So if that sounds good, let's just go ahead and hop into it, and of course timestamps will be in the description below. First of all, if you don't know what slugs are, they're basically one solid projectile. So the shotgun basically goes from having a bunch of pellets to just having one solid massive projectile, and slugs are usually pretty damn large, and in game they tend to be pretty strong overall. So let's check out the base stats for the normal slug rounds on this gun. So here is what I was able to dig up for this gun, and as you can see, you deal a massive amount of damage, especially headshot damage up close. I mean, 320 is no joke. If this translates to Warzone, it's going to be a one-shot headshot. We'll have to see how that goes, but this is a great damage profile in my opinion, and as you can see, out to about that 7.9 meter mark, you can get a one-shot kill if you're just hitting the stomach location. If you hit arms, of course, it's going to be a two-shot kill, and legs, of course, too. But if you can hit stomach and up, you will get a one-shot kill, which is really nice. I'm always kind of nervous how they balance slugs, because sometimes they make it to where you can only headshot, like one-shot headshot, or you can only one-shot chest shot, but this is pretty cool to see, because as long as you hit your shot in this range, generally it's going to be a one-shot kill. Out past that, you can still one-shot headshot out to basically infinity from what I can tell, but it'll take two body shots from then on out. So this is an overall great damage profile. I'm pretty happy with how they balance them so far, and the numbers are really nice to see. Now, of course, as you might expect, there are some drawbacks to using slugs. First of all, they're pretty damn hard to use if you're not really used to them. You're gonna have to be aiming down sights. This is not a traditional shotgun. You can't just hip fire this thing. No, you're gonna have to aim down sights, and that does make it a little difficult, and especially with a game like this where you have a lot of people jumping and moving around and sliding, trying to show off for their TikToks, you know, it can be a little difficult to hit your shot. But if you got the aim for it and you're sticking up close and personal, like playing on maps like Favela and Skid Row, maybe even on Sub Base, you can get some awesome tears with this thing, because it's really fun to use. Now, one other big drawback to this thing is the bullet velocity. This is probably the biggest downside so far, because if you look at the stats and you see the actual bullet velocity that these things have, they're incredibly slow. If you compare it to something like the Core 45 pistol, you'll see the Core 45 pistol has a better muzzle velocity than slugs. If you look at something like an AR and compare it and see how much of a discrepancy there is, it's massive. There is a massive discrepancy, and slugs overall just travel so slow. I mean, if you just shoot up in the sky with them, you can actually see the projectile go, and it's not really that fast, and there's a big arc to it. It's almost like shooting a faster grenade launcher in that sense. It's a little weird, but in this game, thankfully, there isn't a lot of like aim down sight spread to slugs. It's mostly just the downside of having such a slow travel time with these things that make it to where you have to kind of lead your shot, and if they're facing away from you or if they're like sideways, you're gonna have a little bit of a hard time hitting these shots. Unless they're facing directly in front of you, it can be pretty challenging. And again, this is probably the biggest downside to slugs, is just how slow they travel, and you really have to take that into account when you're aiming, and of course take into account the drop that it has. But overall, not too bad for normal slugs. I'm pretty happy with this damage profile and how they play. Now let's talk about the 12 gauge explosive rounds. So these things you would think would be pretty good and pretty fun overall, but let's take a look at the damage profile. And as you can see, if you're noticing something, it's probably the fact that it can't really one-shot headshot out past 3 meters, and out past that 3 meter mark, it's not doing any one-shots at all. These things are absolutely terrible. Do not use explosive slugs on this particular shotgun. They are awful. I mean, just look at this. Look at the damage it does. It's mostly going to be a two-shot. It's got some great damage ranges, I guess, but it's always a two-shot. You can only one-shot headshot. You can't like stomach and up one-shot kill. It just doesn't happen. If you hit a headshot and you're out past 5 meters, it's just not going to happen. It's just not going to happen. These things are awful. And keep in mind, this damage profile is with EOD off. So there is no EOD equipped. This is what you're getting. Now, granted, EOD doesn't seem to really change the damage from what I can tell when I tested in game, but why would you use these? There's literally no reason to use this over regular slugs or even over any other gun or thing in the game. I'd rather be using a melee weapon at this point. It's just atrocious. These things are just so bad. Just avoid them at all costs. Yes, you do get vehicle damage. Yeah, you can have a little bit of splash damage from the slug, but they're just Oh my God, don't even bother. I promise you guys, just stick with normal slugs on this thing and you're good to go. No need to touch these things. I promise you, don't bother. Now, since we got all the basic stats out of the way, let me share with you guys my favorite loadout. And of course, big shout out to the COD Community app. This thing is amazing. And if you haven't followed me on it, I highly recommend you do, because I always post my loadouts there before my video goes live. So you get a little bit of a sneak peek into what's coming the day that I upload generally. So here is the loadout. You can see we have the Bryson Hammer Forged barrel. Of course, that's going to give us some aim down sight speed and also some range. This doesn't affect your pellets, obviously, because you don't have pellets. So you don't need to use that last barrel. It's too slow. This one is perfect for slugs. Then I am rocking the 12 gauge slugs sawed off mod and the express light bolt. That light bolt is good because if you do miss a shot, having a faster follow-up is really important. And honestly, it doesn't seem to affect your accuracy when you're shooting that much. So it's really not a huge deal with the sort of accuracy penalties these things supposedly have. Totally worth the trade-off in my opinion, of course. And also for the last attachment, I'm rocking the VLK 7mm laser. This one is sort of preference. This is a great laser overall because I like the aim down sights and sprint to fire speed bonuses, but of course there are other options for that, and this one does give you a visible laser. But I do like the aim down sight stability that this thing provided. That's why I generally opt for it, just because it makes it a little bit easier to pick people off of head glitches. But if you're sticking to close quarters entirely, you might be better off taking that laser off and swapping it out for something like the DR6 hand stop, because that gives you a great aim down sights boost without having a visible laser. And then there's also the Demo X40 tactical pump, which gives you even better aim down sight speed, but it does hurt your flinch resistance a little bit. So I generally go for the hand stop over the X40 tactical pump, also because it does give you some better mobility and comes to movement speed, which is nice and a big bonus for this thing. So overall, my thoughts on slugs and explosive slugs. For the normal slug rounds, I'm pretty happy with them. I honestly think they're a lot of fun. They're not going to sort of replace your shotgun loadouts. I mean, they're a lot of fun, but they are very challenging to use. And I think that's the big drawback to them, if you want to call it that, because normal shotgun's way easier to use. This thing is just way more difficult, but it is a lot more consistent in some regards. So I actually enjoy slugs quite a bit. The damage profile is really nice. You can one-shot headshot people at ridiculous distances if you really want to. And up close, it's a menace. If you got the aim for it, you're going to be getting some awesome feeds. I promise you, they're really good. You have to try them out. I love them. Now, when it comes to explosive slugs, don't bother. Throw them in the trash. Don't ever make a loadout for these things. Just avoid them entirely. If you find them on the ground, ignore them. Just use a melee weapon instead, or use a pistol. Anything besides these things. They are in a massive need of a buff, and honestly, I could see them getting about the same damage profile as normal slugs, maybe a little bit more range, maybe to make it to where they have a bit more splash damage overall. There needs to be some sort of trade-off to using them. Maybe make it to where they're slower than normal slugs, but they do more damage, something along those lines. But I'm not too upset with it because we do have some great slugs overall. So now I want to know down below in the comments, what do you think about slugs on this shotgun? Do you think they're really good? Do you think I'm kind of overhyping them and that they're not that good? Are they really difficult to use? Or for you, are they actually pretty easy? So with that being said, guys, I will see you in the next shotgun video.